Omar, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good. Dallas, how's it going?
It's good. Still waiting for my end-to-end update. I'm usually pretty early, but I haven't gotten it yet.
Nice. And HustleTown, welcome to the space. HustleTown used to let us know how the audio on YouTube was, but because of the MacBook Pro that Paymore hooked me up with, link to which is at the top of our screens, um, we now don't need to ask how the audio is on YouTube. I'm assuming it's really, really good right now.
Audio is perfect on YouTube.
All right. Perfect audio on YouTube brought to you by Paymore. Give it a follow through the link at the top of our screens. All right, Omar, let's get started. What's on your mind today?
Well, just FSD performance I've been seeing yesterday, honestly. It really just is getting quite remarkable, especially the highway driving in really dense, packed areas. It is something I think that reminds me a little bit about going into FSD V12 for the first time. So we saw a little bit of a expanded rollout of 12.561. We have 12.562 coming. It's still in the very early stages. Most people don't have it, but I'm really excited for that to go out to everybody. We are approaching the end of the month. V13 is still nowhere to be seen, but I'm hoping that we might have some news on that soon. Maybe see it go to employees or something like that, since Ashok did mention it was coming out soon. At the same time, FSD 12.5.4, which doesn't have the end-to-end on the highway, continues to roll out. We saw another point release go out to Hardware 3 cars last night, which has also been received smoothly. We got it on my dad's Hardware 3 Model S. So good stuff going with FSD. I mean, if they really are able to deliver a 6x improvement, then most people who've estimated the miles per intervention have critical interventions at least somewhere with 600. I mean, sorry, at least 100, 200, maybe as high as 500 miles per critical intervention. So if they're really able to deliver a 6x improvement, we're starting to get into the thousands of miles per critical intervention, which for an average American who drives 12,000 miles a year means maybe one critical intervention a month or something like that, as opposed to multiple critical interventions a week, which is where it would be today, even for the best localities in the world. So I think that is potentially really exciting. They're making really good improvements with end to end on the highway. I'm just wowed every time I get in the car, especially during highway drives, and I'm excited for that to roll out to everybody.
Thank you very much, Omar. And we just hit our 100 like goal on YouTube. And as I was informed by Brian Silver on YouTube Live Chat that we just hit 100, I was able to take a screenshot and post it on my Twitter as Omar's talking. Doing all of this because of the 8-core CPU and GPU brought to you by Paymore's new laptop, MacBook Pro, that is now hosting this space. And I pinned it at the top. Thank you, Paymore, for making this possible. Dallas, you had your hand up. Would you like to elaborate on what Omar was saying?
Yeah, I guess I have a question while we're on the topic of 6x improvement. Do you think they mean 6x improvement from the final version of V12 that we're on now to the starting version of V13, or do you think it means from final version of V12 to final version of V13?
I mean, I think it's really just kind of a rough estimate, right? So it's tough to really boil it down into one number. Some areas may see a 10x improvement, some areas may see a 3x improvement. But generally, they're talking about categories of issues that have been eliminated. For example, let's say reversing is something that could cause an intervention. Well, if the software can then now reverse itself, then that's an entire category of things, a category of interventions that were eliminated. Let's say that there were interventions for sometimes failing to read a traffic light correctly. Well, if you improve traffic light detection, then that might make those interventions more rare. So I think probably they're really talking about, the latest version of 12.5 compared to, what they would hope to achieve with version 13. So early builds might not have the full improvement. They may have some new issues that pop up. They may even be slightly worse at first because you have these sort of issues that you need to fine tune out. But then as you fix those issues, the underlying capabilities of the model, for example, the ability to reverse, the ability to reroute more seamlessly, things like that, deliver that 6x improvement that they are projecting. And of course, this is like when you say a number like 6x, it's not, exactly 6x. They're kind of throwing out an estimate there. The reality is obviously going to be different in different places depending on what kind of things you're asking it to do, but they're just trying to give us a rough estimate of what they're expecting based on the data they're seeing so far.
Great. Omar, I'm always reminded to ask you what the status is on your project to create something way better than Tesla FSD tracker, where we stand on that.
Yeah, we are making some progress. I was doing a lot of stuff, just moving and things like that, but now I'm more settled. I'm talking with Meta a little bit. He has a fleet of Teslas, so we're starting to collaborate a little bit. Right now, the data has been set up. So we set up the Teslas to be able to upload the data to the server. It's being dumped into Apache Kafka. And now we're basically just working on a basic database schema with Postgres and PostGIS to store the data. This involves just taking all the records that come in, associating them with the VIN, basic Tesla API OAuth flow, and then just having a table that essentially just, you know, creates trips and then has stats for the trips and just kind of like, playing with the PostGIS schema and looking that up. LLMs definitely make it a lot easier. But if you're a developer and you want to help with this, just throw me a DM or something. And we're just trying to get a little open source team of developers in the Tesla community together to work on something so we can actually look at real time data from the vehicles. Tesla Scope is also working on something similar. I think I've been using this app called Tessie, which uses the new data source from the vehicles. So I'm just kind of using it to get a sense of what my app will also be able to see because they've already built out the UI. So if you're somebody who has like doesn't have Tesla insurance and you want to see what percentage of your miles are on FSD, go check out the Tessie app, TSSIE, and you can start to see. So it's cool. You can replay the whole drive, see where FSD was activated and where it wasn't. And we're going to leverage that data source to really be able to chart out the progress of FSD in more detail, go a lot more, in depth than 6x, and really develop a much deeper understanding of how the system's progressing and when it's ready.
Thank you, Omar. And is there a timeline that you're shooting for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that by the end of the year we can just get up a basic web page that tracks the drives in my videos. So along with the drive, you can also just see the data associated with it. And, okay, here's the speed he was going, here's how many miles he traveled, here's where FSD was on, here's when it was off, how many interventions were there. And then also allowing you to have the video. So not just an entry in a spreadsheet, but then you can actually look at the video, you can look at the footage, and you can actually see what was this intervention. And I think that, makes it not just a data entry, but something people can really look at. And obviously not every, entry is going to have a video, but we will allow people the ability to attach a video for the drive.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing this come alive by the end of the year. And if there's anybody in the audience who can help Omar with his project, which is going to benefit the community and Tesla greatly, reach out to him and offer help, offer expertise. All right. Very good.
Also,
Yeah.
there's this one project that I'm looking at potentially integrating with where they essentially have a special dash cam drive, and you put that dash cam drive in. The dash cam drive is itself a computer, like a Raspberry Pi type thing, and it can automatically upload that dash cam footage. So for people who wanted to do it, we could set it up there where you could report your data to, the server, but then you could also upload the footage. And of course, this would be done in a way where privacy is respected. All your information isn't just being uploaded online, but you can upload data and there's anonymized aggregate statistics posted publicly.
Thank you, Omar. Omar, what do you make of the proliferation of accounts on X and YouTube sharing YouTube videos of or videos of FSD drives? Early on, a couple of years ago, it was only you, and then it went to about 5, 10 people that we would check each one. And today we have probably more than 100 creators posting videos of FSD drives. What do you think about this?
Well, these are really often the most boring videos in the world, but it is also kind of interesting to document history. For the team, it's also very useful because they don't have the ability to go everywhere, right? So seeing a video, I mean, seeing the data from the vehicle is one thing. They can get a good sense of what's happening, but hearing people's comments, what it actually feels like. I mean, there's such a big difference between looking at FSD on a computer or a video and actually being in there, feeling the way it moves. How suddenly did it stop, right? How did it make you feel? So there's a lot that can be sort of gained from it, I think, for the team. In terms of, people posting it, why do they do it? I mean, I think it's just kind of the amazement is part of it. I think wanting issues to be fixed that they're experiencing is also part of it. So I'm going to post a video soon, which is how to record an FSD video just like I do. And I'll show you how to connect the GoPro, do everything, how I put it in Final Cut. So it's actually a good thing if you just want to, record a video and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing, here's the issue I'm seeing, here's what it's doing well, and post that video, then it helps the team. It helps spread awareness. When other people in your area see it working in your area, they go, oh, wow, that's right where I live. Huh, I should get this if it's working so well. And, probably a lot of people want to know, okay, well, how does it work in this area? So I think probably people should post them. It's good. It helps. It helps the team. And maybe they'll put you on early access if they like your videos, and then you'll get videos early.
Nice. Looking forward to that video where you explain how to do it. And so, do you think more people posting videos, let's say 1,000 people were posting videos, FSD videos, and trying to find edge cases, do you think that would be helpful for the Tesla Autopilot team, or do you think that's too much?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the really powerful thing about FSD, and nobody else is doing this. Nobody else says, hey, here's the car, go take it anywhere and try everything. They go, okay, we'll let you borrow the car if you're within this area, and we're going to tell you what road you're going to drive on. And, we might have to call for help if things get too weird. Tesla's just like, yeah, let's go. Give me the craziest thing you've got. And obviously, a lot of these YouTubers, nobody wants to post a YouTube video that says, my Tesla drives straight for 3 hours and has no issues, right? They want to post something crazy. They want to post Lombard Street or something like that. So it is just an incredible testing force, right? We have to make a system that can do anything. And just letting people take it, independently test it themselves, see how it performs, come up with their own tests, right? Come up with their own crazy scenarios. I mean, even guys like Dan O'Dowd, Elon jokes that he's the best unpaid QA tester because he's just coming up with these scenarios to try and make it look bad and just allowing them to sort of kind of stress test the system and make it better. So it's an incredibly powerful force just saying, here's the software, go try whatever, and that'll help us make it better.
Nice, awesome. I'm actually thinking about getting a super cheap used Tesla. You can get one nowadays, a used Model 3 with like 150,000 miles for about 10,000 bucks. And I can probably negotiate that down a little bit more. And then, I mean, I think just from the FSD videos posted on YouTube, I can probably cover that cost in like a year.
Tesla Live on FSD.
Yeah, exactly. Tesla Live on FSD would be nice. And I think it also would inform. So that's, I think maybe that's the next milestone here. Would inform my views of FSD a bit more. And I would really enjoy trying to find edge cases, I think. So TBD. I'll see what I can find inventory wise. Michelle informs me on YouTube live chat that 1080p is looking good. But the fact, Michelle, is 1080, it's been 1080p. But I think what's happening right now is that because of the new MacBook Pro having a better resolution, better screen, it's able to actually fully show the benefits of 1080p on the live stream. So you can head over to the YouTube live stream, check out how it looks. Hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And maybe I can make that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways to create these kind of incentives and for people to like and subscribe and feedback loops to build into Tesla Live. But I haven't really come up with great ideas so far. Yesterday, Steve Saranka came up with a great one and said, for every $1 of super chat, we're going to extend the duration of the live stream beyond 2 hours by $1. And yesterday we got enough super chats to get us to more than 3 hours, but I was limited by my appointment at Paymore. And so we're going to continue today for at least 2.5 hours. And then depending on the super chats that come in or the number of likes that come in, we're going to continue. We may continue beyond 2.5 to 3 hours. So settling everybody, come up to speaker board with your questions, comments. I'm working with my ChatGPT therapists to be nicer to speakers, to be less of a soup Nazi, and allow them to use 11 words instead of 10. Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to use some words, log something into the GPT records. I went on a long FSD drive with my Cybertruck yesterday, about 3 hours up and down Pennsylvania, up through the mountains and down. 2 observations. The braking was hard, still hard braking. The other thing, the passing was crazy. My wife wanted to almost choke me, but I let it go. It passes rigs at tractor trailers at 70 miles an hour like an Altima driver. Absolutely insane. I don't know if anyone else has seen that, but it's wild. I let it go. We're still here, but it was like, yeah. There you go.
Thank you, Neil, for sharing your personal story. I appreciate that. We do welcome personal anecdotes here. Remind everyone to keep in mind these are personal anecdotes and may not apply to everybody in every state, in every situation, every model, etc. But I think the more varied, wide distribution of these personal anecdotes, it does have value for customers, the company, and investors as well. So come on up to the speaker board, share your personal stories about using FSD. Service centers is another one. And also insurance. Tesla insurance is another one that I'm interested in. Okay. Not only Tesla insurance, but also what your insurance payments are, insurance quote is for your Tesla, what your model is, and how does that compare to the previous vehicle you had? One thing I'm trying to understand these days is, insurance prices have surged across the country for all vehicles because of inflation. Okay. But there is a lingering FUD out there that Teslas are cost higher to insure. So come on up with specific figures that you can share with us. What was your insurance before your Tesla? And what is it with Tesla? And if you have Tesla insurance also, you can elaborate on that part as well. Let's go to Chris, another great supporter of Tesla Live. Chris, go ahead.
First a question for Neil. So when you said that it passed rigs at 70 miles an hour, do you mean that it passed and then quickly got into their lane and almost cut them off, or what do you mean by I was kind of dicey? Thanks.
Okay. Yep. I will articulate. So ultimately, I would be approaching a tractor trailer in front of me that was probably going 60 to 65 miles an hour or less. It was slowing down as we were going up these mountains. I was going 70 to 75 miles an hour consistently in my Cybertruck. The Cybertruck would get, according to my wife and probably others, a little too close before it chose to hop over and pass the tractor trailer. And it would cut back. Most often, it would cut back unless there was some other situation. Um, it did really good, but I'll tell you what, just like it comes up quick and breaks, it comes up quick before it passes too. And I don't know if this is just a consequence of a short nose or some other physics that we haven't dealt with, but it's sudden for a lot of people, you know. And again, it could just be the design of the vehicle where with the Cybertruck you have this very blunt nose, so you run up on things very quick, but maybe our perception's wrong, right?
Any other questions, comments for Neil? Please request to speak. JC, welcome. How are you? Oh no. Okay, bad connection. I'm gonna move you down. Uzi, how are you?
I'm doing well. So Neil, I haven't met anyone that uses Cybertruck on the FSD on Cybertruck. So I'm wondering if it's any like there's any jerk to it at all. I know that sounds kind of funny, but is there any lag?
Uh, I will tell you this, it is slow to get to top speed. So if I'm in a 35 mile per hour zone, it'll hang out at 30 to 32 for too long. The most noticeable, the only intervention I've really had with Cybertruck FSD is tapping the accelerator. A little bit slow at times. But yeah, otherwise it's good.
Robo rides. You may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question for Omar. I'd like to ask him if he could include in that video he's making a definition of critical disengagements versus interventions. So, I make videos of full self-driving, and it's always like a constant battle in the comment section of what's actually what. So it'd be super helpful if there was like a clear definition that, for example, Tesla uses as a, guide for their own testers that work for them or something along those lines.
Well, there is no official definition, right? So there's systems, there's ways of organizing data, but I mean, I can just kind of give you a sort of broad distinction. There's gray areas, obviously. So a critical intervention really means if the human had not intervened, the software would have caused a crash. Now, the gray area here is, well, how do you know it would have caused a crash? If you're being a good supervisor, you're probably taking over more than you should in instances where there wouldn't have actually been a crash. But if you're just not feeling it, you got to take over, right? So that's where kind of the gray area in critical interventions is. But don't ever say, well, let's see, maybe it won't crash head on into this truck. No, just take over, okay? It doesn't matter. They have ways of seeing what the software is going to do. You just need to make sure your car's safe. So, critical interventions, that's really what we're talking about. Then there are other kinds of interventions where the car makes some type of mistake and you take over. For example, let's say that you saw the car get in the right turn lane when you actually had to turn left. And so you intervened because you said, well, it's going the wrong way. Or let's say, it's going too slow and you're annoyed with it, so you take over. Those are not necessarily safety critical, but it was an error. It did something that the user didn't want. However, I mean, even you put your kid in the driver's seat and they're probably going to make some wrong turns. They're probably going to do some things that you wouldn't do, maybe drive a little slow or whatever. So that's more of it's a real thing, right? I mean, we don't want it to make those types of interventions, but they're sort of, in a lesser category. And then there's just, you know, user interventions because the user just wanted to drive, right? And the software wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong, but the user just felt like flooring it or whatever, right? So that's kind of the thing with autopilot and FSD. And you look at Waymo, the first category, the safety critical interventions, is really what you need to drive down to zero. For other issues, like for example, the road's blocked off by construction, whatever, you can reach out to remote operators who can help it if it has that foundation of being smart enough to not crash into anything. So really, once the safety critical interventions are at a low enough level, then you can start doing driverless testing, even if it's sometimes making wrong turns, maybe sometimes getting stuck. Remote operators can help with that if there's a foundation of just not hitting anything at a much lower rate than humans.
Thank you, Omar. Jimmy.
I had a question for the room. What does Tesla do when you don't take over the vehicle? I did a test on this earlier, lost FSD, but I just kept my foot on the accelerator and the car said take over, but I never did. So is there like anything Tesla can add to force your car over? Like, what are the safety features? I don't know.
I'm not really sure what you mean. So you held the accelerator, autopilot kicked you out
So
for
if
going over the speed,
no,
and
yeah,
then you wouldn't take over?
yeah.
No.
So he's saying if you get these like red hands and autopilot is telling you to take over right now, and you don't take over, what does Tesla do?
Well, the car will continue driving a little bit, but ultimately it's just going to stop. So,
Does it pull
you know,
over?
it doesn't quite pull over. It more just kind of continues to drive, but eventually stops. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Jimmy says he was pushing the accelerated pedal still. So, I mean, in that case, if you crash into it, Tesla has all the records that you were pushing the accelerator button, the pedal. So, you're just going to kind of get yourself in jail. Chris?
yeah. I mean, when they tell you take over, you better take over, or they may just stop and you can hit something.
Yeah. All right. AR, go ahead.
Not on FSD, but I did have an experience a few days ago. I was in a parking lot and I started backing up and I was pushing the accelerator and a car just darted out of a corner and my Model Y just instantly slammed the brakes. I came within inches of crashing into this car. So one thing is knowing that that feature is there, but actually experiencing it, I was like, whoa, I just avoided a giant accident, thousands of dollars. I don't know how much in headache and, you know, dealing with this problem, but it was just absolutely amazing. It's
Yeah,
there
I
and
mean,
it
that's a
works.
great point, AR. It's kind of like, we know that FSD with human supervision makes you a safer driver. There's a lot of data and a lot of anecdotal evidence to support that claim. But it's, I think people just don't think about safety on a daily basis. It's only when really something happens and you do realize, oh my gosh, like this was real. This is just became real for me. And you see the benefit of what FSC did. Or if you get into a crash, God forbid, knock on wood, you kind of realize, in a high speed crash, Tesla doesn't, being in a Tesla is much safer because of the ultra high strength steel that Tesla uses. And also the larger crumple zone because there's no engine in the front. And people kind of realize, okay, but after the fact. And I don't know what Tesla can do to bring it more to the front because I think safety is going to be to the front burner because I think the safety is going to be a key differentiating factor when it comes to cyber cabs, the adoption of cyber cabs by the society. So Tesla as a safety brand is very important, and this is why a lot of short sellers and other special interests that want Tesla and Elon to fail focus on creating FUD, spreading FUD about Tesla's safety statistics. Jimmy.
I was going to add, humans aren't proactive to safety. Like, I didn't buy a Tesla based off safety, but I've also never been in an accident with my Tesla. So it's not a concern to me until I'm in an accident with my Tesla.
Yeah. And by the way, Tesla's safety is superior in dozens of ways. And we took a few episodes to talk about this. We had episodes that are specifically designed to focus on Tesla's safety in dozens of ways. And if you ask an average person, they won't know even one or two of them. Dallas.
Yeah, I think something to note here is that everyone talks about when we achieve human level safety, right? And I think when they say that, they mean a human who's actually driving the way you're supposed to drive. But as we know, especially living in a city like Dallas, people drive awful. I mean, I've kind of started doing this thing where as I'm riding around, I look at how many people are on their cell phones. And it's to the point to where it's over maybe 40% of people that I take a look at are texting or scrolling while they're driving. And I just think with that data added, I think Teslas might already be safer than the average human driver on the road.
Thank you, Dallas. Chris.
I can answer your question about insurance if you want me to.
No, we're going to stick with this topic.
Okay,
I
sure
see
thing.
a lot of insurance quotes coming in. That's my mistake. I should have asked one question at a time. But we'll circle back to the insurance. And the insurance topic is going to be an ongoing topic over the coming episodes. I think there's a great opportunity for us to kind of close the gap between reality and perception on that front. Let's go to Elia.
Hey, how you doing? It's Elijah, but that's all right. So I'm in New York City, Hardware 3, 12.5.4, and we've got speed cameras everywhere that they'll hit you with a ticket if you're going over 30, and the speed limit's 25. And on the auto speed, on the new auto speed or whatever it's called, it's regularly going like 33, 34 in the 25 zone, and so I just have to like turn it off all around here because of that. Do you see any improvements coming on that front?
Omar.
Yeah, in the latest update 12.5.6, they've now added the ability to set a max speed and it won't go above that.
Thank you. Neil?
I just wonder if we should have a ticket mode in, autonomy, full self-driving, where it's like, you know what, you just drive crazy and I'll take all the tickets, park illegally, right? Like, I don't know.
Wow.
It may have to
Neil
deal with it,
with the
right? Like,
creativity. Lauren?
what if I'm worth? I'll pay the ticket. Sorry.
Hey, in terms of the safety thing being a selling point, my opinion is it'll never hurt, but it'll never really sell cars. But the time it will sell cars is when it gets safe enough that they can offer insurance with a huge discount because they're not paying liability claims for accidents. There are less repairs. And then it becomes a huge financial deal that is a huge selling point of the car. We're not there yet, but I'm hopeful we will be soon.
Yeah, I agree. We're not there yet, but we will be there soon. I agree with you, Lauren. I think that's a great milestone to watch. When FSD starts lowering your monthly insurance payments, and let's be on the lookout for any comments from insurance companies to attract Tesla owners. If you use FSD for most of your miles or majority of your miles, will lower your, just like Tesla insurance does in a way, in a kind of indirect way. Omar, when do you think that's going to happen? When do you think Tesla insurance, other insurance companies are going to account for FSD miles?
Well, I mean, I think it is going to have to be factored in the coming years, especially when you see things like V13 promising a 6x improvement. I mean, if that happens several times a year, you're already seeing that FSD supervised, according to the stats, makes you 10 times less likely to go get in an accident per mile traveled. So, what I see happening eventually is FSD and insurance folded together. I think you can raise the price of FSD include insurance for the portions where you're using FSD. And someone who doesn't drive manually would not have to pay any car insurance at all.
Thank you, Omar. Let's go to Michael.
Hello there, do you hear me? I'm a truck driver from Belgium and I want to buy a Cybertruck, but he's not available here. 2 weeks ago, a Chinese guy, he bought one, but he is not authorized by the Belgian authorities, so he had to sell him. Do you think he will be available soon in Belgium?
Omar?
No, probably not, unless you really expand your definition of soon.
You know, that's a great question for before I go to Chris. Great question, and great kind of tangent a little bit on a test drive I did with a friend of mine. So I often take my friends to Tesla test drives. I enjoy the experience myself every single time. It allows me to test, FSD versions as well on different models at different locations, and I can answer questions along the way during the test drive. And after I get Chris's comments, maybe I can say a few words about that test drive, and that it also has Cybertruck implications. Chris?
Yeah, I'm using Progressive insurance. I am in Tennessee, so Tesla insurance is not available. Progressive has an app called Snapshot, which measures your hard brakes and your fast accelerations and kind of counts those against you for your scoring. And I've noticed that the hard brakes and fast accelerations that happen during FSD are actually counted against me with the Progressive Snapshot. So I just wanted to comment on that and ask if anybody else has seen something similar.
Anybody on the speaker board in the audience would like to answer Chris's question, please request to speak. Anyone on the speaker board? Okay. If you have an answer for it in YouTube live chat, or if you didn't hear the question, you can head over to YouTube live chat, pause, rewind, replay, and re-listen to what Chris said. And you can do this at any time during the live stream. YouTube allows that. And engage in YouTube live chat for questions and answers. Chris, I would try that question on YouTube live chat. We have a bunch of moderators, and some of our speakers are on there as well, and they're answering questions, even if it doesn't relate to the conversation that's ongoing right now. And now let us know what the answer is. Okay, so the test drive I did with a friend of mine, we head over there. And before we head over there, we kind of just want to make sure they have cars to test drive and, the store hours and everything. So I called them. And for the first minute of the call, they were talking about, if you want to test drive a Cybertruck, you have to schedule. If you want a Cybertruck, it's going to come, soon, etc. For the first minute of the call was about Cybertruck, which kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting that. And it tells me that a lot of people are calling these stores asking about the Cybertruck, just like our previous speaker, Michelle just did, or Michael just did. And so that's something to keep in mind. I think the demand for Cybertruck, as the Cybertruck price declines and Tesla increases production, I think the upper limit is going to surprise people. So that's just one anecdotal evidence. And then we went to the test drive. 2 people working for 8 years at Tesla were at the front desk, which kind of caught me by surprise too, because a lot of people don't last 8 years in Tesla. It's a very high intensity, very demanding job to work at Tesla. And so these are 2 people working at the store. But it surprised me a little bit that they didn't know about FSD versions. Not only that, they did not know that Tesla has been pushing out FSD with no steering wheel nag. They didn't even know what I was talking about when I asked about it. These are 2 employees working for 8 years at a Tesla store that's been around for many years, which is stunning to me. And I always kind of observe the experience. But before I continue, let's go to Roborides. Roborides?
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience with the gentleman that came to fix my car, like where they come over with the Model X, and he actually has FSD in his car, and he was surprised by all the features. He said he doesn't even use it, even though he's been working there for 4 years. He said initially when they gave him the car, they encouraged him to use FSD for work, but then it just became not a thing for them for some reason, which I found strange as well.
Yeah. But here's more. Okay, Neil?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I think ultimately just with the FSD versions I've had and through the progression, I think interventions will go from safety critical to time sensitive, right? Just convenience and time sensitive. And that's what we're going to see. And that's going to be very hard to deal with, right? As a manufacturer, how much of these are safety critical versus how much of this is just, I don't want to wait for this thing to cut left and go by this. So I don't know how that goes, but yeah.
Okay. Now there's more to the story. So we get in the car, okay, and one of the employees actually said something wrong and said something like, you have to have a destination for FSD to work, which is obviously not correct. I mean, even if you kind of don't have a destination, FSD just continues where you're. Am I wrong? If it just keeps going straight.
It doesn't need a destination to work,
Yeah.
but I can see why they would tell him to enter a destination to show it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the case in the past, but I don't think these employees are kind of keeping up with the fast pace of improvement at FSD. And that obviously is reflecting to potential buyers that come to the store. So I think one thing Tesla can do is to make sure the employees are aware of at least the release notes, like what changed. I mean, it doesn't have to be like smallest changes, like we added this many clips to improve this and that. But if you have a major step that says no more steering wheel nag, make sure your employees know that and communicate that to potential buyers. Because I think what's happening in these test drives is that what happened to my friend. She comes to the driver's seat, okay? First of all, she didn't even know to turn on FSD if I didn't tell her. Okay, because the employee didn't say anything. We had to specifically request a Tesla with FSD on, and I said latest version with no steering wheel. That's how the steering wheel NAC conversation started in the first place. And she had to check which Tesla has FSD. Like they should have a section with Teslas with FSD. All Teslas should have FSD first of all, and they should encourage people to use FSD during the test drive. Okay. So she gets into the driver's seat and she turns it on. And I think with most people, when they first turn it on, that giving up control is a little difficult, challenging. And you kind of get this innate kind of feeling that I got to take over right away. Okay. But that's really hard to get over unless you have somebody in the passenger seat telling you this is how you're supposed to do it, kind of let us do his thing, kind of walk them through the experience. So it might take actually an employee, kind of like Tesla used to have employees in these test drives, but they did away with that. But if an employee is sitting in the passenger seat and is allowing the new driver, the potential buyer, to kind of walking them through a little bit of hand holding, a little bit of kind of smooth talking, let them do his thing. And my friend was able to, after a few minutes, trust FSD because to my surprise, FSD quality has increased dramatically. And in the this was a 12.5 version, and it did not make a mistake at all during the test drive. And my friend was able to trust FSD after just a few minutes. But you're not going to get over that hump of the first few minutes unless you have somebody experienced in the passenger seat telling you, and trust it. This is the whole thing about, the chasm between early adopters and mass market. To cross that chasm, you need somebody you trust, not the company through ads. You need somebody who you trust, an early adopter, to tell you it's okay to cross that chasm and try this thing. Neil.
Yeah, and I just want to affirm what you've just said because my first experience with FSD was in 2017 in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They had a car show where you could sign in and get the option to, drive a Model S, right? And this is before Model 3. So you could drive a Model S, and there was up and down Route 39, the chocolate highway, that you could enable autopilot. And it was a little bit jerky and a little bit disconcerting, but I had a Tesla, employee in the passenger seat. So yeah, that's how it was, and it was extremely valuable for me. That's what motivated me to, you know, chase Tesla.
Neil, Reggie.
Yeah, I had a similar experience this past weekend. I got an email that says since the we robot event, they're allowing 24-hour test drives or demo drives. So I got in and booked the Cybertruck, but they said, "Oh, we only have one Cybertruck, so you only got 30 minutes with it." So the guy set it up. It was all my family's there, so the guy set the advisor set it up, but he didn't realize that it had FSD, and he didn't turn it on. So I was like, "Hey, does it have FSD?" He said, "Oh, I don't know." So he ended up looking at it and says, "Oh yeah, it does. Just drive as normal." So didn't give any quite instructions to it. Obviously, I'm used to FSD, but that was experience with the visor. I'm not for sure if they're either pushing it or required to push it, but it was one of those things. They did try to push the truck to me, but not the actual software. Then another instance, I guess with the service center as one of the advisors,
Yeah.
I was actually walking or talking through with some potential customers and walking them through how Model X worked. And it was an older couple. They were trying to trade
Yeah.
in their old Model 3. So
Yeah.
just some experience there.
Okay, these anecdotal evidences are very important, more varied. Just keep them concise, but more varied, the better. From different geographies, different stores, different experience, different models, different FSD versions. So it's very important to come up, request to speak, share your experience with us. And if you don't get a chance to get the mic, you can always reply to the space and leave your comment in YouTube live chat as well. And if I see one that's really good, or one of my speakers see one that's really good, they'll bring it up live here as well. Now, before I go to the other hands, I have a third piece of a third note from that same test drive. You entered this is a new Model Y with just a few miles on it, which is great, right? You get to experience the latest and the greatest. And there are a bunch of videos about your Tesla, but I didn't see one about FSD, which is amazing. Like, we're trying to increase the take rate of FSD. Why isn't it there? Why isn't it prominent? Okay. So 3 pieces of advice, feedback to Tesla. 1, make sure your employees know about major step changes in FSD performance. No steering wheel nag is a major one. Every employee should know that. 2, I think that there should be a dedicated FSD employee that goes along FSD test drives in the passenger seat. Okay, at every store. And here's why. If this employee, I mean, let's assume they get paid $100,000, salary, benefits, all in. If you just sell 10 of them in a year, so like literally less than 1 a month, you already covered the cost of the employee. And when they're not in FSD test drives, they can be helping out with other things at the store. Okay, so 1 employee should be dedicated an FSD expert at Tesla stores. That's 2, second piece of advice. 3, there should be a prominent video and every test drive. Here's what you're supposed to do. Pay attention. You're still responsible, but here's what the experience looks like as you're driving. Okay, 3 pieces of advice for Tesla. Okay, let's go to HustleTown.
First and foremost, if Tesla is listening, I'll do that for half of what Iman is proposing. Second, I think now with the new FSD, the hands-free version, I think they can really allow people to experience this by themselves. With the previous free trial, maybe they did need somebody, but anecdotal, anecdotally, one of my wife's coworkers, she got the free trial and she might be hooked on it now. It's kind of impressive. I'm really curious. I want to know if anybody's really using the new free trial. The 2 people that told me that they've gotten the second free trial, they're all over it. I don't think they can go back. They're like me now.
Thank you. Jimmy.
To your last point about the experience and changing it, do you think Tesla wants to change that experience of, because I hated going to car dealerships and having a salesperson with me in the car. Like I just wanted to drive the car. And that's what I found personally nice about the experience was Tesla was like, here's the car, bring it back. Don't put more than 25 miles on it.
I think both have pluses and negatives, like everything else in life. I've experienced both. I mean, I was test driving Teslas when there was a salesperson. I've experienced test drives without a salesperson, and I agree with you. I think when there's no salesperson, it's a more personal experience. You can kind of explore on your own. You're not kind of pressured. But if the goal is to increase FSD take rate, I think that some drives at least should have an employee for that purpose specifically. Okay. Uzi.
Yeah, if you want another anecdote, my grandma, who's like in her late 70s, 80s, and my uncle went on an FSD test drive, and they didn't have anyone with them. They kind of harassed the like service employee to get a car with FSD, and then they had an expectation that FSD would be perfect. So I think it messed up twice. It didn't like stop at a stop sign perfectly, and I think they said it ran a red. I don't know about that one, but if part of the market for FSD is elderly people that don't want to be driving anymore, and I'd put my grandma in that category. Having that representative might help a lot more. But like the technology just has to get to the point where it's unsupervised and an old lady can just sit there and not have to drive anymore or be vigilant.
Yeah. There's a funny comment in YouTube live chat. Chris V says, after our test drive, my wife and I spent 5 minutes in the car wondering how to turn it off. Dallas.
Yeah, I kind of think there's an approach here where you have to differentiate, like, are you wanting to test drive the vehicle to try our FSD software, or are you wanting to test drive a car just to drive the car, right? Because I see the benefit of not having what I would call more of a showroom person than a sales agent, because they don't sell you cars. They're not allowed to talk about price. Like, you don't feel as pressured versus going into a Volvo dealership and the guy's like, you ready to go talk about your rates, or let's go talk about your credit score? Like that's just not how Tesla is, which is such a breath of fresh air. But if you do go in with the intentions of, I want to try your cutting edge, full self-driving software, then there should be someone on the team who's knowledgeable enough to go with you and explain it to you as you're using it.
Exactly. And you can just ask them, do you want an employee to come? Everybody has their own preferences. So we're not trying to invent the wheel here. Alejandro.
Yes, I think that Tesla should break the test drive in two categories. Like the person who just wants to experience the Tesla car. It's just that there is so much difference between regular ICE car or probably other EVs and Tesla, that just that experience is so much information to absorb, to how to use it. The fact that there is no 300 knobs on the car, that I'm not sure somebody who is just trying to get into the Tesla for the first time can absorb on top of everything FSD. So I would divide it in two. And just to finish, I think the best thing that Tesla is doing for the FSD adoption is this 30-day trial and pushing it every time there is a very good feature added. That's a great thing, and that's it.
Jimmy.
Yeah, you brought up three good points, right? But I would add a fourth point to this. Please, Tesla, if you're listening, make sure FSD is actually updated on every car that you're sending out to people test driving it, because I've been many service centers, and guess what? They're all on different versions of FSD. So how are we going to get consistency if they're all on different versions?
Why?
Yaman, how would you rate the people that went with you, their vision of the vehicle?
What do you mean? My friend or?
Yeah, your friends. Plus, it's kind of like having a salesman, having you with them. So
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by their vision of the Tesla? Like how they perceive the car?
Yeah, how in a like a 1 to 10, do you think that
I
they
mean,
might
dude,
purchase?
I'm yet to meet somebody who went on a test drive with me and didn't end up getting a Tesla in short order.
Wow,
Yeah,
you should be selling.
yeah. I mean, it's so easy to sell a Tesla. It is. I mean, the car sells itself. I don't have to do anything. All I do is just um, understand where the bottleneck to the purchase decision is, and share a couple of facts about that bottleneck. That's really all it is. And
You know, I like
and
what you say.
okay, go ahead.
I like what you say about their knowledge, because the best salespeople need to know their product, and that is huge. What you're saying, if Tesla's listening, the people need to know their product better.
Yeah, yeah. It's really easy. I mean, you can't sell it to everybody. Like sometimes I post this tweet, and the other day I posted and kind of went viral a little bit. I said only morons buy something other than a Tesla. Okay, and sometimes I see replies that says, "Well, what about the people who can't afford?" Let me tell you, you can't not afford to you can't afford to not get a Tesla. Okay, because with these low prices, um, you don't have to buy a new. I mean, you can buy a used one in the in the teens these days. If you buy it for less than $20,000, which is like 2 3 year old Tesla, the gas savings and maintenance savings alone pay for the car. So, like, you're not rich enough to not get a Tesla, you know. And it's the best car. It's the cheapest car, most affordable car, and it's the best car. So I'm glad that these tweets generate a lot of replies, even if it means a little kind of pushback a little bit, but it kind of starts the conversation, goes viral, and then in the replies, people respond to specific claims. And that's how it's going to spread, I think. And like I said, I've never met a person who came to a test drive with me and did not end up getting a Tesla. So, Edward.
Yeah, Yaman, I know you like statistics and data a little bit more than anecdote, but I have a little bit of update on the last 5,000 miles of my FSD and driving people in Uber. 500 rides. 500 people have not been has seen FSD. Not one rider that I've had have seen FSD. Now 50 or more actually want the vehicle now that they've seen what the car can do. Now that they've seen the FSD. Okay. 450 out of 500 have never even been in a Tesla. So this shows how many people have not even really ridden in a Tesla. So they like the car just as the car itself. But most of them are actually predominantly impressed by the FSD. Okay. And the issue is cost. They think that the cost of the vehicles is more than 50,000. That is the impression that I'm getting from asking them questions as I take them for rides every day. I haven't had a whole lot of critical errors, maybe one or two where it might have hit a curb if I hadn't have taken it over during that entire time. This is 1 month. So I just want to give you guys that data so you guys can see what people are seeing, from other people's eyes.
Thank you, Edward. We have a comment from Fleet Profit Center in YouTube live chat who says, notwithstanding the employees working there 8 years, do you think that the quote, all test drive need an FSD demo, and quote, the tweet that Elon sent out about a year ago, period, resulted in feedback that pushing FSD hurt sales? And HustleTown replied, thank you, HustleTown, for being a speaker and also active on live chat answering questions. HustleTown says, Fleet Profit, maybe a year ago, 12.5 will convince a vast majority of people that have never been exposed to autonomy, and I agree. I think 12.5, especially the no steering wheel nag feature, is a huge step change. And this is also agreed by Omar, by Dirty Tesla in my deeper conversations with him published on YouTube, and also by AI Driver. Everybody agrees no steering wheel nag is a huge deal. All right, Jimmy.
Just to add on to the affordability on a used Tesla, $4,000 off federal credit, $2,000 in my state off. You're now bringing an $18,000 car down. I mean, they're super affordable and they last a long time. Like, that's the used car market in Tesla is going to change the used car market, period.
Thank you, Jimmy. Marcel, and then AR.
Yeah, I think another option for having people test FSD instead of doing a self-test drive or have an employee with them is for each location to have some sort of demo route that's like a specific route that they figure out, and then also have it like voice guided so it can maybe explain some of the key features and capabilities while you're doing the route, and just make it kind of like this in-between experience where it's like a pseudo employee is with you kind of guiding you through it versus actually having to have a human there.
That's not a bad idea, but how would you implement that across all stores? Like each store would have a different route.
Yeah, it would definitely require some setup, some upfront setup. But once you have one route, you can just have everybody do the same route, and then employees could be really familiar with it as well, and maybe pick a route that kind of hits some of the key areas in that space where it might have some more difficult things that it can tackle. But yeah, it definitely would take some more upfront work.
Yeah, I mean, what we want to do is take steps, and this is what I try to do with Tesla Live too. Okay, you want to take steps that is the best return on investment. And so this is return on the numerator, investment in the denominator. Okay, and investment can be a form of time or money. So, how much employee time is needed, how much money is needed. I can see it being a problem where that setup you're talking about, where you're gonna have to pick a route for every store, and the voiceover is gonna be different for every store, and it may change. Like, what if the constructions don't happen in that, and then what do you do with the voiceover? So that can get really hairy. And at the end of the day, we want FSD to work everywhere anyway. So I don't know if that denominator is a little too large. And then let's go to AR and then Wes.
Yeah, I think a good idea for them to try is to just give every new car they sell, like, doesn't have to be a month, just give them a week of free FSD, like the way when you buy an ICE vehicle, they give you 3 months of Sirius XM satellite radio. I don't care about satellite radio, but when I got my Model Y like 4 or 5 months ago, I was in love, and it still hasn't worn off. I mean, I was like, this is a spaceship. And ever since I've subscribed to FSD, my spaceship just drives itself. So if you can bundle that feeling for the new owners of any Tesla right off the bat for free, I think a lot of people, once that week or 2 week free trial goes away, they're going to want to stick with it. It's going to help conversion rates, I think, quite a bit.
Thank you, AR. Okay, you know what? I just realized we just crossed halfway in our space. Okay. And I've been way more involved today than in previous episodes. And you know why this is? Because I don't have to worry about freaking water cups on my laptop. Condensing and grabbing this paper towel, running across and making sure there's still ice there and like wiping off the condensation. And because I don't have to do that, I can actually listen to people. I can listen and contribute to the conversation. So I'm loving it. So thank you, Paymore, for hooking me up with a MacBook Pro that is able to handle the heated debates that we have in Tesla Live. And if you want to say a thank you to Paymore as well, the link is at the top of your screens. You can head over to the Paymore account at Paymore Stores, follow them, shoot them a message and say thank you for sponsoring Tesla Live. Wes?
Hey, I just joined. Good conversation. I am fully in support of having videos, but I really feel like they should have some type of a simulator at the store that allows you to test putting on physically in a vehicle, putting on FSD and then overtaking it. Because for me, that's been the biggest thing for
my friends and family who have bought a Tesla is that that's their biggest apprehension, is knowing how physically to take over, to turn it on and to take over, turn it off. And then I think the other super big thing for kind of getting over the hurdle of purchasing a Tesla is like actually knowing how much you spend in electricity. Like I would hazard a guess that even folks on this call maybe don't know how many pennies every kilowatt hour of electricity costs them, or even like how they're charged for electricity, like if what kind of pay structure they're on. Most people just pay the bill and move on. So I think that's a big help for people to buy a Tesla, is that they do that calculation and then realize how much money they're going to save by buying a Tesla. So there's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Wes. Omar, what do you think about this conversation so far? Various suggestions offered. Which ones do you think are better than others?
Yeah, a lot of interesting discussion here. I think, the goal of increasing FSD adoption is one that I care a lot about. And just showing people, hey, this technology's here, it exists, you can use it if you want to. I think a lot of people would it would really improve their quality of life to have this if they knew about it. So it's a good question. And, I was interesting to your retail experience. I agree with Wes's point that charging costs are kind of opaque. They've kind of done some stuff with this in the charge stats screen, but that's only after you buy the car. So maybe something that could look up your power company and give you a sense of what it'll actually cost to charge your car. That could be helpful because obviously it is much lower than gas. In terms of having a intervention simulator in the store, I think it's kind of a funny idea, but interventions are just becoming more and more rare. I think this display would become out of date kind of quickly. Um, it's just something you kind of have to learn. I don't know, maybe as it gets more and more rare, you do need to kind of prepare people more. But right now, I think the autopilot video kind of covers it. So, and then, in terms of the store employees obviously have no clue what they're talking about a lot of the time. And this doesn't apply just to FSD, right? So, you go to the Tesla store, you don't really expect these people to know more than you or anything you don't know. And I mean, they say things all the time. I went last year and they said, yeah, there's a roadster coming with 626 miles of range. I'm like, that information may be a little out of date. But yeah, I think in terms of just the experience, the FSD supervised experience, it has to be really an improvement of the on vehicle software to kind of walk them through that. And it doesn't have to be a full voiceover, it can be a little video and then here, try it yourself. Why don't you type in somewhere you want to go? And, kind of showing that to them. But really, this is kind of limited usefulness. I definitely think they should expand their sort of walkthroughs in the vehicle. I definitely think they should educate the showroom employees better. But you're never just going to have the showroom employees be these incredibly well trained employees that are retained very well because Tesla just wants to keep their cost structure very low, right? These vehicles sell themselves. You don't need these employees. You can just go on the website and order it. And it's their philosophy that every dollar should be put into engineering, not sales or marketing. Now,
Well, but I agree with you generally, but here's a bit of a pushback. And sorry to interrupt. And Machine's mom lets me know in YouTube live chat. We just hit 200 likes. Thank you, Machine's mom. One more reason I like you. With store employees, I think so I used to think that the primary reason why they're not that knowledgeable is because there's high turnover. It's a very high demanding job, and Tesla obviously even doesn't pay top dollar. You're there for the mission most of the time and the experience, working for a company that's the best in the world. Okay. But in these with these two employees, one of them, actually the other one didn't know either, but they've been there for 8 years. So that is more of a training issue and maybe an incentive to keep up with these updates somehow versus turnover. And I think making sure that they know more about FSD, where it increases your safety if it's supervised by human. That's a fact. They should know that. And how much would it cost to let them know that on an ongoing basis, right? Isn't that like a 10, 20-minute video they have to watch? And that's scalable across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That is something they should know. But for whatever reason, my experiences, and this probably varies from person to person, they're not really Tesla experts. Your average Tesla X account has a better knowledge of Tesla than the showroom employees. So this is absolutely true. It always has been. I don't know what they need to do to change that, but it's clear that they haven't really relied on these showroom employees to sell the product aggressively. They want it to be kind of self-serve, or that's kind of the strategy they've taken. And these people are basically there to just answer basic questions like, oh, so where do I put the gas? Well, sir, it's electric. Huh? Electric? Oh, those kinds of questions.
I mean, I agree with you. But I think that you might be underestimating, Omar, how much body language matters of these employees. Like, I don't think the employees are sold on the idea of FSD as much as we are in this space. And when a potential buyer talks to an employee, that's a representative of Tesla. And if an employee kind of body language says, no, don't worry about it right now, then they're never going to buy or subscribe to FSD. I think that's a critical bottleneck that Tesla needs to solve first. Let's go to.
No, I mean, I think we're in agreement. These showroom employees are not selling FSD and selling the cars as well as they can. And that has been the case for many years now. So I'm not really sure if that's going to change or when that's going to change, but I would love to see it change. I would love to see them be incredibly well trained, know about all the software releases, make sure everything is properly explained. That would be great. But
exactly.
it would be
And
like nothing we've ever seen before from Tesla.
well, Tesla is known for that. And one way you can make that happen is like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this X space with your friends, family, colleagues. When you go to the Tesla store, make sure that they know that you know more about Tesla than they do, and they make them ask how, and say Tesla Live. Jimmy.
I was going to say that's your solution right here. Make it mandatory. Every Tesla employee needs to go to Tesla Live, 12 Central Time. You can learn everything. You don't need to sit in a small room with a computer screen in the back watching force-fed information from Elon or Tesla. You just come here, get all the knowledges.
Yeah. Exactly. It should be, and it can be interactive. The employees can come up to speaker board, ask questions. They can share their anecdotal evidence, in a way that a pre-recorded video cannot do. And by the way, this says a live space on X is not replicable on YouTube. Like, even if I kind of like set up a virtual room on StreamYard, that's going to be like, dedicated 8-10 people at most. With like today, we're going to hit a new record for new speakers because of this conversation on X Space, which is not replicable on any other platform that I know of. And employees can hop in whenever they want, come onto the speaker board, and we respect their NDA. New employees, I highly recommend. So share this space, everybody. Like, share, repost with your followers, send it to people on YouTube and on X. And that's the way it's going to happen. And it costs Tesla nothing, right? So that ROI that we just talked about half hour ago costs Tesla another dime for employees to hop in here. Neil.
Yeah, so Elon told us on earnings, California and Texas are the targets for autonomy. So I think when we talk about like these employees and where FSD demos matter, that's where it matters, right? They have to concentrate those demos on where they're going to deploy the software, right, and the solutions. And it may be less critical for employees in West Virginia or Kentucky or other places to sell the software, unless I'm wrong. I'm up for comments on that.
All right, Omar.
I think an interesting part of the conversation is really just the incentive structure. Elon loves to say incentives drive behavior. The retail employees are not paid on commission, they're paid hourly. So whether they sell a Tesla or not, it makes no difference to their job. And I'm not sure that necessarily needs to change, but if they were incentivized to sell the cars, they would probably educate themselves a lot more thoroughly without anyone asking them.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I want that changed either, to be honest with you. But so how would you incentivize people? Let's kind of brainstorm here. How would you incentivize store employees to be more knowledgeable about FSD? Not necessarily sell FSD, but at least know that there's no steering wheel nag in this latest version. Like that is a low fucking bar, you know? HustleTown.
I think the stock options. I mean, if you're an employee of that nature, obviously money is of high value to you. You're probably using it for rent, food, other things of that nature. But just a small portion of their check being shares, I think could go a long way for incentivization. But that should be enough, knowing that you have a product that could potentially gain you some serious generational wealth. I think would be incentive enough for me. But
Okay. Uzi?
I'm just curious what the current compensation package is for, you know, service center employees. Is there any incentive to sell more?
No, I don't think so. Omar, is there any incentive to sell more for a service, a store, Tesla store employee?
No, and that's kind of how they want it. They, or, originally what they said, we don't want people pushing product on them. We want people to kind of just be able to walk in and take a look, and the people are there to give them info.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that mentality. I don't think you want them to be pushy, but it also shouldn't lead to them not keeping up with the latest and the greatest about Teslas. So, I mean, if you want to keep your job, maybe you should kind of take these continuing education um, type of updates and prove that you know the latest and the greatest. Like, just a major thing like a steering wheel nag. I don't expect them to know all the release notes, memorize all the release notes, and cite them back to a potential customer. Like Omar can. But they should at least know there is no steering wheel nag.
Yeah, I mean, and your experience is probably going to vary. I'm sure a lot of showroom employees do know that, but really it's fighting an uphill battle. Ultimately, you have to make the car kind of sell itself. You have to get in, the car has to explain everything. It has to sell itself perfectly every time. The showroom employees can assist with that, but I mean, Tesla's even done some experiences where, for example, outside a hotel, they have a car and they say self-serve demo drive. Just come scan this QR code, upload your driver's license. We'll give you virtual access and you can drive this Tesla. So I think experiences like that are really powerful. And really, when you get in the car, whether you had a good showroom employee or a bad showroom employee, Grok should be in there answering all your questions and selling you that Tesla perfectly every time and showing you those FSD videos, highlighting the no nag with a video centrally designed by Tesla. And then make the showroom employees watch it and do it too. And they'll also have the information.
I love that idea. I love that idea. Have Grok be. I mean, that's a perfect idea. Have Grok be your passenger seat employee during the test drive. Love it. I think we should just end the space right there after that. Jimmy.
How does Tesla do employee performance reviews if not based on like sales numbers? Because you can't sell a Tesla in a service center. People just go on their phone, Like, I know they have these performance reviews. I think they said 1 to every 6 months or something. But like, does anyone have any insight into that? Because if I was an employee and I had no inhibition to make more money, I would just do the laziest bare minimum.
Omar, do you know any insight into that? How does Tesla? Yeah,
Service center employees are measured on metrics such as, turnover, how many customers they see, all kinds of things. For showroom employees, I don't know. I think they pretty much just have to show up. I'm sure there's some metrics they're measured on, maybe, attendance, maybe number of orders they get. I don't really know. But it strikes me as very much an entry level job.
Great. We have a bunch of hands here and great discussions going on YouTube live chat as well. A lot of great suggestions. I highly recommend heading over there and checking out and responding, engaging with others, like-minded fans of Tesla and Tesla Live. And I'm going to say a quick word of appreciation for our sponsors, and then we're going to continue with this conversation. I'm loving this episode. Thank you very much, everybody. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Jowa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. At Jowa, you'll find innovative charging solutions, stylish oh my gosh, machine just requested to speak. Oh no. Maybe we can have him read the sponsored messages. Let me just finish this real quick. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Jowa, innovative charging solutions, stylish interior upgrades, protective gear, cutting-edge tech add-ons. Use promo code TSLA Live at the checkout to receive a special discount. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm actually looking into getting a super cheap used Tesla to create some FSD videos. And I think FSD videos alone would help Tesla Live grow on YouTube and pay for the car within 1 year, I'm guessing. I mean, also the gas savings and any other transportation methods I use. I think that would be good for Tesla Live too. Machine had a problem coming up. And then also pay more. Tesla Live is being hosted today on a new MacBook Pro provided by Paymore. And because of that, I'm able to contribute more to the spaces because I'm not worried about the laptop getting overheated. The MacBook Air would get overheat and the audio would glitch. And I would have to put there are many pictures of this on my Twitter now. There's 6 plastic cups of ice water with a cooling pad under that. And with Paymore, I'm able to contribute more to that. And notice that Machine requests to speak as soon as he requests. Machine, there you go. Your wait time was lower today because of Paymore.
Thank you, Paymore. And thank you, Yaman, for introducing the idea for your next career. I think we can all agree being a front deskman at Tesla is the right career for you.
I would triple the sales. You have no idea. You have no idea.
No, I do have an idea. I think people would walk into the store and Yaman would have a polo shirt that's buttoned up all the way to the top, tucked in fully into his khaki pants. And he would stand up to his desk from his desk immediately and be like, "Hello, are you interested in buying a Model Y?" And his eyes would have this kind of crazy look, like the crazed girlfriend look. And that enthusiasm is exactly what Tesla does not need.
Yeah. I gotta tell the Machine, you're very underrated. Even though your ego is huge, one of the hugest ever in human history, you're an underrated dude, especially by ChatGPT. ChatGPT knocks your grading every single day for your diversions, they called it today, and your humor. But I think that humor is critical to growing an engaged community. And I think you do a great job at that. And I've actually heard of many people on X and even in my personal life identify with some of our speakers. Like they'll have a personal connection with a speaker, even though they never met that person. Your name obviously comes up often. Omar comes up often, and I find that really interesting. That kind of phenomenon really interesting. It's almost like, when you had friends, I mean, if you go watch Friends growing up and everything, but um, people would have their favorite personality on the show, and that's very similar to that. I think, like, sometimes some people come to the space just to hear their favorite speaker, which is amazing. So you're famous. What do you think?
Well, thank you for the compliments, and
Oh,
I think
can I say one more thing? The person who gave the compliment to you yesterday said, "You sound sexy."
Was it his
well,
mom?
coincidentally, in terms of making that personal connection, that's also what your mom told me many, many times. Uh, but I think really I'm just a normal person who actually talks to people in real life, unlike most of your listeners. So, and your other speakers who just stay on here all day. When you had this space 8 hours a day, they were here all day. And so I just have a step ahead because I actually get out in the real world.
Yeah. Habib.
My favorite personality on this space is the macro analyst account. I love to come here and listen to that account speak.
Macro analyst, anything you would like to say to that?
So
No.
I just want to follow up about the topic I just joined, about the sales showroom employees. And I just wanted to share a quick anecdotal experience. I have had the fortunate experience of purchasing a few different Teslas over the years, not just for myself, but for family members and friends. And I have gone into the showroom numerous times. And I would encourage everyone on this space who wants to research and learn more about this to try this in your local showroom. And don't show up there with your Tesla, just show up in a completely different vehicle, and you'll see honestly how poor their experience is when you're engaging with the showroom workers. It's like they could care less. They couldn't be bothered. The last vehicle we purchased was a Model Y last month or 2 months ago, and they literally took the picture, the driver's license, they sat us in the vehicle, and they gave us a brief overview how to put the vehicle in drive and the turn signals and to adjust the seat, and then they leave you alone to drive the vehicle yourself. Now, if you are an educated consumer, specifically educated in this brand, then that's can be an okay experience. And many of us sit here and we always post things like, "Oh, we love to just buy our Teslas like we're buying cell phones with a click of the button." But if you're a consumer that actually wants to go to a showroom or a dealer to get some education about vehicles because you don't know much about them, it's not really a good experience, in my opinion.
Thank you, Habib. Habib, did you buy a new Taycan or was that an old picture?
You like it?
No, I hate it. But I want to make sure. Did you buy a new one or
That one is not my Taycan. Mine's a white one. Mine's
okay,
a white
good.
one. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. I mean, you can make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, that's why you don't buy the same model year. You buy the next model year. So it's technically a different mistake.
Okay. Jimmy.
Habib, you said that you had a bad experience, but you still bought a Tesla. So you're just confirming that they sell themselves and they don't even need people.
Yeah, Jimmy, I am not your average consumer. Um, my my expertise levels are just a tad higher than machines. I'm just a little bit more intelligent in everything than machine
Well,
is.
Habib is a real doctor. Machine is not. It's kind of pseudo doctor.
No, like I said, I know what I want, right? I know the brand. I've been a consumer. I've been part of the brand since 2013. Okay. But there are many people out there that are not. And they will still rely on the traditional dealership experience to learn about the vehicle, to find out about the vehicle. These salespeople, as far as I can tell, they're not even trained on how to sell. Okay, they don't even know how to sell. They don't even know to ask you to sit down. They don't even know to offer you a water or bottle. These simple little tricks that have statistically shown that consumers will buy more vehicles or a higher chance of buying a vehicle from a dealer if you try these different things. They don't incorporate that. Now I agree that's not maybe the business model. They don't want to have to sell it. They want to sell it on their own. However, I don't know what the real rate of return of these employees in these showrooms are, other than they're taking a picture of your driver's license and telling you to, for all sense of purposes, to go go F off.
So okay, Omar.
You know, I think everybody's telling their stories about showroom employees. They had no clue what they're talking about. I wrote a couple of tweets about it. People are commenting, "Man, I cringe sometimes when I hear these people talk." It's true. But it's kind of like saying, "Man, Google has the worst phone support." Yeah, they do. You know, they're Google. They're trying to sell, or in Tesla's case, battery electric vehicles at margins that are comparable to ICE, even though they have this massive battery. So maybe improvements can be made. They can be trained a little bit better. But ultimately, Tesla is not really going to be about the salesperson selling it to you. And maybe legacy dealerships have a sales advantage there in some cases. Tesla's really the brand you just order online yourself.
Habib and then Jimmy.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, Omar, what you said. However, the only problem with that is that yeah, Google has a terrible phone support, but you don't majority of people are not relying on phone support to solve their issues with Google. People are still going into dealerships to buy vehicles. These are big purchases. These are big monthly payments. They want someone to appease them and make them feel good when they make these financial commitments. It's just consumer mentality when it comes to sales.
I still don't get I don't think we're getting this, guys. Like, I understand we have bad experiences and we're saying, hey, they need to change, but Model Y, best selling vehicle in the world. How is that a thing? How do you compare those two? Customer service stinks, but they're still selling more cars than anybody else. Like, make those make sense. Make those correlations. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's very easy. All else equal, if your sales force or your store employees are better trained, it would be even higher. That's a very easy thing to answer. And on the other hand, you can look at the FSD take rate. FSD undeniably makes every human safer, supervised by human, safer drives, more convenient. It's a great, great service. Take rate should be 90% today. Okay, and it's not there. And part of the bottleneck is because of the service employees, the store employees. Habib?
Yeah, and I would argue that I don't know the number of referrals leading to sales of vehicles, but they should offer or they should incentivize the FSD in a referral program. They should consider doing that if that's what they really are pushing towards.
Yeah.
And even the
Wasn't
sales
that?
in the stores, they should
Yeah.
have them incentivized to selling FSD. They know you're going to sell the car, but can you get FSD on there or not?
Yeah. Omar, wasn't that part of the program at some point, very briefly? If you took someone to a test drive and if they got FSD, you get. Oh, am I misremembering here?
I mean, they do test drives with FSD, and I think Elon's been tweeting lately, and the Tesla account's been tweeting, take a test drive, test FSD.
But why isn't the FSD purchase or subscription part of the referral program?
Yeah, the
Then
referral program is really just about selling vehicles. That's what it's always been. So they've never included software upgrades as part of the referral program before.
Okay, machine.
I just wanted to say, if Habib is looking to adopt a son, I'm here. I'm available.
I think your mom is busy enough. Tammy.
I couldn't possibly agree with Habib anymore. It's way more egregious around where I live.
You walk in there, there's 6 or 7 employees sitting down on their phones. They know nothing about the cars they're selling. They don't even bother to tell the people coming in there that FSD exists. And when they do, they sell it as a future technology.
Let me ask you something, Sammy. Sorry to interrupt. You said 6 to 7 employees sitting on the. When did you see that?
The last few times I've been in.
When was the last time?
I'm getting so heated about this. I want to drive
When-
over there and take a
when-
video for you guys right now.
Yeah, because my experience at the last store, which was a couple of days ago, was different. They were actually running around. They were busy. There was a lot of. That's the other thing I forgot to mention earlier in my anecdote. A lot of test drives, and the 3 people working there were pretty busy.
And I think the thing you were saying with Elon and FSD was he made it mandatory for the Tesla employee that delivered the vehicle to have the purchaser try FSD together.
Okay, Joey.
What time frame do you have for this return of investment? Like, are you looking at this quarter or the next couple
What investment?
of increasing sales at service centers or wherever?
No, I think this is a more general kind of conversation about store employees need to be more educated on FSD, especially when it comes to major step changes, major features like no steering wheel nag. They should at least we should make sure they know that, and they should communicate that. And I think Omar's idea is probably the best. Have Grok be your store employee sitting in the passenger seat and guide you through different functions and be part of that test drive. I think that would be perfect. Jimmy.
I actually have a better idea than Gronk. It should be you and Omar standing outside of a Tesla center with Tesla shirts on, and you should say, "Don't listen to these fools who actually work here. Let me get you into this vehicle and it will sell itself. And if you have any questions, I can answer those and I can go above and beyond. And for a small fee of free, you can join the Tesla Live community 12 p.m. Central
Yeah.
Standard Time."
1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. I enjoy going to test drives with my friends. Ellie.
I hope you can hear me. I'm driving my motorcycle. I just gotta say, yeah, I mean, working in the store, you have so much work in your computer, and you need to work on your administrative software that you have to manage your customers. And I just gotta say, it's really hard to talk with customers about stuff they don't understand because after a few sentences, if they're not into it, it's very easy to lose their attention, and it's very easy to just lose the customer to something else like other companies or other brands that they do understand, because sometimes it's just difficult to talk smart with somebody who's not educated on the subject, and then you just lose the sale. By the end of the day, the guy in the store wants to sell the car, and if he can't lead the customer into the conversation, you're just losing the lead and you're losing the money. So that's why sometimes just feel like we know more about the car than the people in the store. But I gotta tell you, sometimes it's not the case. It's just about the sale.
Thanks, Ellie. Amped Up. Amped Up has been patiently waiting for the last 30 minutes.
Thank you. And one of the ideas I have is we have hundreds of buyers that are going to a store, and sales staff don't have the time to spend doing an FSC drive because you want to go on a road, a highway. So my suggestion is you have these verified FSD users, like say Omar, they get their addresses and they can connect with Omar to get an FSD drive, test drive if they want. And that way Omar can spend 4 to 5 minutes taking them on the highway, on the road. And if it leads to a sale, then you get more referral credits. So that's my suggestion.
Omar, are you up for it?
Look, I mean, I think we're kind of really over optimizing a part that shouldn't exist here. What, like, look forward a couple years, or even, let's say by the end of Q4 they start to do unsupervised rides. Do we really need to educate people on how to sell this? People will get it right away when they see it. Oh, I don't have to drive the car? Okay, yeah, call me one of those cars. That requires, I think, a completely different marketing strategy. So, yeah, you can make some steps in the interim, I think, to better train the sales force to help them highlight these FSD supervised features. But really, the main point is make it unsupervised. And then the way we think about marketing that, I think, will be completely different.
All right. Just make it unsupervised. Easy as that. Ellie, we have a question for you in YouTube live chat. How did you unmute while riding your motorcycle?
I'm driving really slow. One glove is off. My left hand is without the glove, so I'm color cold just so I can participate in this conversation.
That's amazing. Look at Ellie, one of our most valued speakers, way more valuable than Machine. Ellie is always promoting the space, liking, reposting, sharing, bring his wife, an expert in geopolitics, into the space for unique insight. He is riding his motorcycle with one hand, and the second hand doesn't have a glove so that he can unmute. Amazing. Compare that to Machine. He always derails the conversation, insults billions of people an episode, and tells people to not like it. Go ahead, Machine.
Well, first of all, I was just thinking that on one hand, we have Alexander, who allegedly is Swedish. I put that in quotes because his last name is really a Danish or Norwegian. So we need to ask him about that. Talking about how safe Swedish drivers are. And in reality, it's because no one's able to drive. They force them onto subways because they're not safe. But they're very conservative, slow driving on the road. And meanwhile, in Israel, we have Ellie one-handed driving a motorcycle, probably weaving through traffic, trying to talk on a Tesla Spaces. It's just two wildly different situations, and I appreciate that about the world.
Alexander, a word. I'll give you 30 seconds to defend yourself.
I am actually half Danish. That is correct. But yeah, I don't know what to say. Machine always dunks on me, and I don't know.
Oh boy, we have a knockout. Machine.
Well, I mean, I knew it. I knew it. I'm good at this. And the other reason I knew he was probably Danish is because he talks like he has a potato in his mouth. And that's a known Danish thing. Actually, probably talking like they have a Danish in their mouth.
Hey, Machine, we have another question for you from YouTube live chat. Needy Tortellini asks, how is your VinFast investment doing?
I've been out of VinFast for quite a while. So I've done nothing with it. I mean, it's survived much longer than I thought. So I'm glad that I can't predict these things. I've moved mostly to trading indexes. It's just much less stressful.
Okay, great. So normally we would end this in 2 hours, but because of yesterday's super chats, we have this new policy. Every dollar of super chat increases the length of this space by 1 minute. And yesterday was a very great success. And therefore, we're going to continue today as well for another half hour beyond the normal time. So we have about 45 minutes to go. Machine.
I would also add that, maybe Ellie's wife is an expert in geopolitics, but I am the expert in geopolitics in this space. And don't forget it.
That is the most bullshit thing I've ever heard. Alexander.
Yeah, because of Machine being so good at dunking on me, maybe we should pay him. Maybe not $100. I mean, I only slip his mom at 20, so it should be less.
All right, we're bringing this back to Tesla. True to a T, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. He says, my cover charge for getting to hear Machine. Wow, I get a code check. Machine gets $5 for the cover. Amazing. All right. Let's see. Giga Texas. Let's switch gears. Giga Texas. 10 applications that show. Wow, needed turtle. Thank you very much for the coffee. All right, I gotta focus. 10 applications that will double Giga Texas capacity. Omar, from yesterday. Tesla says they're going to combine some elements of the existing lines, existing production methods, and some elements of next gen production methods to double capacity at Giga Texas and hopefully get close to 3 million cars. That's the current production capacity overall global, which would represent a 40-50% increase. It's actually above what Elon said on the earnings call. What do you think about these applications that came to surface yesterday?
Well, they have said consistently that they plan to produce a more affordable vehicle, that they see this getting them up to a 3 million vehicle annual run rate. And we've known that they're probably going to be produced in Giga Texas first. We do have that Model Y 4680 line that never quite came back. So I think they're probably using that as the first spot for building this new, more affordable vehicle. And yeah, I think naturally, if they really were on track for, let's say, Q2, Q3 of 2025, you would have to start seeing permits. And that's what we're seeing here.
All right. Would you like to make a prediction about what this new vehicle, new affordable model, is going to have? Maybe, I mean, I think it's going to. I think we all know at this point that it's going to have some elements of the Model 3 Highland, the new Model 3. Anything above and beyond that, you think?
I think it's gonna be like a cyber cab, but with manual controls.
Okay. What type of battery do you think it's going to have?
Good question.
Thank you. I can now ask my question in a little more words because Omar identified my question as a good question. I am accomplished today. I feel happy. Omar?
Yeah, I think that for the cyber cab, they want to do LFP 4680 cells. For this, I wonder, on one hand, I would say maybe 4680, but do they have enough supply? But then on the other hand, with Panasonic and LG and other suppliers coming online, maybe you do have enough supply. Or, maybe they plan to have LFP 4680 ready sooner than I thought. Maybe they've been working on this. Or maybe they just use, CATL LFP. Given the tariffs on Chinese batteries, that probably eliminates a lot of the savings of importing like a traditional CATL LFP pack. They've eliminated that from the Model 3 standard range lineup. So if I had to guess, I'd say maybe it's a 4680 structural pack.
HustleTown.
Any chance of these things having hardware or AI5 on it? And do you think it'll have the 48-volt architecture?
48-volt architecture, yes. It'll be running AI4, as AI5 won't be in production for another 18 months.
Wow. Okay, so you're 100% certain about 48 volt for this new vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say
Wow.
90% certain. Tesla did mention in the deck that the new vehicle incorporates elements of the next gen platform, as well as elements of the 3 and Y to, bring it onto the 3 and Y line. But if you watch their investor day presentation, they were pretty clear about what this next gen platform entails, and 48 volt sort of ether loop where they have this ethernet wiring that takes power and data across the car is what they're going to be doing for the next gen platform. That includes Cybercab and also this new, more affordable model.
That would be huge news if this new vehicle has 48 volt architecture. Because if you remember from our conversations about a year, 2 years ago, when we first started talking about 48 volt in the context of Cybertruck, and it's a major change for the automotive industry. And with every major change, you have to obviously ramp. Suppliers need to ramp. and this new vehicle is going to sell millions of units. So that would be huge in terms of volume production of the 48-volt electrical, low voltage electrical architecture. And on the battery side, we have a couple of guesses in YouTube live chat. Omar said maybe 4680, depends on the supply. Nick L, a great supporter of the space, says 2170. Neil, a moderator in YouTube Live, says LFP. And Needy Tortellini asks, does CATL make batteries in the US? So lots of different answers. We can have a great debate on this. Please let me know if you're watching this on YouTube, what your guess is, what you expect from this new vehicle above and beyond Model 3 Highland. And with that, let's go to Machine. Machine, what are your guesses?
Well, first of all, luckily you have me here as the only person who's going to correct Lion Omar trying to squeak around and stretch the truth about Hardware 5. First of all, Elon Musk said Hardware 5 in production 18 months away. That was 3 months ago, exactly. So now it's 15 months. And second of all, that wasn't 15 months to the start of production. That was
You didn't
15
factor in
months
Elon
of
time.
volume production. I don't need you to add a layer of interpretation. Okay, I need you to speak the truth to the audience. The audience needs to hear the truth and they make their own decisions. Secondly, in terms of the battery, I like the idea of people separately guessing LFP and 4680. It's probably going to be both.
I mean, the question was, is it going to have Hardware 5? Hardware 5 won't be in production when it starts production.
Hardware 5 is going to be in production probably then within a year, starting in a year from now.
Cybercab will have Hardware 5.
All cars will start having Hardware 5 when Hardware 5 starts production ramp.
You two should get a room.
It's just like Hardware 4. I mean, they start with one model, but they get them all to Hardware 4 when they're ready, when they have the availability. That's what's going to happen with Hardware 5.
Sound like married couple. All right. Who else wants to talk? I want to see hands. Let's see. Bill Utz.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, are we still talking a little bit about going to the auto dealership and purchasing a car?
Now we moved on from that. But I'm always like in future spaces, I highly encourage people to come up and kind of share their anecdotes about service centers, sales stores, insurance. But we have to focus on this topic. We're kind of digging deep a little bit here, Billy. Just stay on mute for now. Gianni.
Hey guys, FSD right now, perfect 6-lane highway, Orange County to LA, unbelievable how good it's gotten. But my question is on new products, okay, whether it's the so-called Model 2 or if it's the performance version of Model Y, why not, based on the success of the Foundation series, why not just do the same type of model where the first product to come out will be the highest margin, will be performance, opt in for FSD, it has to be FSD, and you just pay a price premium, you get to the front of the line, and it's great for margins and it's great for FSD adoption. What do you guys think about that?
Omar?
I think the whole point of this vehicle is to be more affordable. That traditionally has been how they've rolled out new vehicles, but with this version, the entire point, I think, is the price. So you'd probably see it lower than what the Model 3 starts at. If they had this new vehicle, but it was actually more expensive than a base Model 3, that would be a little bit of a head scratcher.
Neil.
I'm just talking.
Gianni, hold on. Thank you.
Yeah, just
all
want
right,
to give
guys. Okay, what's going on here? See, machine. See, here's the example you set for other speakers. You go out of turn, talk without your hands, whatever that means, and people take that exact example. But I want to give a quick shout out to Ellie. at the top of our screens, I pinned his picture that he just posted at the top of our screens. That you can see Ellie with one glove on, one glove off, so that he can mute, unmute for Tesla Live. That is incredible dedication. And I want the same dedication from you, Machine. Machine went into a meeting again, I guess. Neil?
I was waiting for you to call me because I was
I did
having
call on
marvelously
you.
good behavior.
Okay, go ahead.
And yeah, listen, just so everyone understands in this space, everyone needs to stay on mute and raise their hand until the host calls on them, except me.
And that's because of his mom. Neil?
Yeah, so just wanted to say that ultimately, guys, the 48-volt architecture, not only does it lower, the weight of wiring, but ultimately, voltage is pressure, right? If you understand power and energy, voltage is pressure. And that's what we're going to need to drive hardware 4, hardware 5, right? To the extent that you increase voltage on these devices, it's a great thing. So I don't know. Things may change, right? The Semi has a 1,000-volt architecture. The Cybertruck has an 800-volt architecture, right? Like hardware 3 is an old school architecture. It's going to be interesting to see how Tesla leverages power in these units with voltage.
Thank you, Neil. Drew Soul just gifted 1 membership on the YouTube channel. And that will go automatically to the most active, most engaged YouTube viewer. So that means likes, subscribes, sharing the videos, engaging in the live chat in this episode. So YouTube automatically picks the person. Thank you, Drew, for doing this. And Ellie, let me tell you, Drew says he's doing this in your honor today. Thank you, Ellie, for your dedication to this space. All right. Does anybody on the board want to say a piece about 48-volt architecture on the new vehicle that's going to come out imminently here? Omar?
Yeah, one of the things they mentioned when the Cybertruck came out is that the 48 volt is essential to drive the steer-by-wire system. And the Cyber cab is steer-by-wire. Obviously, it doesn't have a steering wheel, so it makes sense for that. But it would be interesting if we also saw the affordable model also have steer-by-wire. There would be really nothing like it in the $30,000 price range, which with incentives would be, a 25K car or less.
Neil?
Yeah, I just want to explain for the people that have a hard time understanding or visualizing electricity, voltage is pressure and amperage is bandwidth. So what we can say is if you were to have a water tower with a bunch of water, right? To the extent that you drain it out, you have a water hose. It can have pressure and it can have volume, right? That's voltage and amperage. This electrical math is unfortunate, but we need to understand it. And ultimately,
Absolutely.
voltage is pressure. And yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil. Neil is trying to gain points with ChatGPT by explaining technical terms to the audience. We'll see if that results in a higher grade tomorrow. Yeah, higher the voltage, lower the current, and lower the heat loss. So more efficient, both when you're accelerating and decelerating, when you put in the current back into the battery. And 48-volt low voltage architecture, and the 800-volt that you mentioned, 1,000-volt, is the high voltage architecture. So it's slightly different things, but both very important. Now, I actually miss a bit of these 8-10 hour spaces that we used to have, and we would just kind of like dig into these things at an extreme length, you know. These 2 hours, amateur spaces, man. We used to host 14 hours. Remember those like kind of empty moments that we used to have? We would just sit in silence until someone says something smart. Ellie.
I remember you used to have like co-hosts coming in and out, and then the vibe would change your recording accordingly because you went out, you went out running or something, and you didn't have time. That was a great time. 2 years ago almost, or maybe 1 year and a half. I missed that.
Yeah, exactly. And there was no YouTube at the time. This was just on X. Yeah, I know who the OGs are. I see you. All right. What else do we talk about? Omar, any comments on the headlines today? BYD beating Tesla on revenue in the quarter. Any comments around that for the first time?
I find this headline laughable. So, last year it was BYD beats Tesla. Okay, well, not really. Tesla actually sold more battery electric vehicles than they did. Okay, well, in one quarter they outsold them. Okay, well, now Tesla's outselling them in battery electric vehicles every quarter except the third quarter. I mean, when you like Ford obviously generates more revenue than Tesla. GM generates more revenue than Tesla, but they generate the revenue selling gas cars, right? So BYD actually in the third quarter delivered 1.1 million vehicles. 1.1 million vehicles, most of them being gas cars, right? And about 440,000 BEVs. Cheap small BEVs, that kind of thing. But a lot of them, right? But less than Tesla. So if you factor in the 1.1 million vehicles, including the hybrids sold, then their revenue just surpassed Tesla. But think about it. How is it possible that they sold almost 3 times as many vehicles, and yet the revenue is just now passing them? That's because their ASP is so low. So I would expect any company that's selling 1.1 million vehicles to have more revenue than Tesla. But the value of Tesla is not just a function of automotive revenue. The earnings they're generating on the car, the fact that they're selling more battery electric vehicles than anyone else on earth, the intelligence that's in these cars, that's really, I think, the value of Tesla. And I mean, I would expect BYD to have more revenue, but if you look at BEV revenue versus BEV revenue, it's no contest. Tesla's way ahead.
Exactly. There's a bit of an odd situation going on with BYD. They used to, they first started out doing ICE vehicles, and then they started doing hybrids and EVs, and their EVs were growing. But lately, their hybrid share has been growing. So along with Ford, GM, and many others, they seem to be prioritizing hybrid sales versus pure EV sales, which I find really odd.
It's hard to do pure EVs profitably. So hybrids has become kind of a lot of the focus for a lot of these legacy automakers. They say, okay, we can still sell these vehicles as green, but we can still have a cost structure that can turn a profit for us.
Yeah. And on top of that, we should also add that Tesla is focused very much on developing FSD, Optimus, virtual power plants, building Tesla Energy. They're not as focused on selling more cars at this time. They're focused on creating a future of autonomous vehicles. So, comparing BYD in the short term with Tesla Automotive kind of misses the bigger picture. If you're liking what you're hearing, we just crossed 2 hours. If you're liking what you're hearing, take a moment to head over to YouTube through the link at the top of your screens and smash that like button. And let me know in YouTube live chat or on X what your coat check number is. Just like when you come into a restaurant, make it a habit to head over to YouTube, smash that like button, and listen to it on whatever platform you want. And then as you're leaving, just like you're taking your coat back, if you haven't done so already, head over to YouTube, smash that like button. This really helps us grow. It takes YouTube to newer viewers, our YouTube channel to newer viewers. It grows the subscriber number, grows ad revenue, and that's the way we're going to get to contribution margin positive once we get to 1,000 likes per episode and 10,000 subscribers. This is very important to achieve before we scale. Otherwise, we're going to fall into the same trap that Rivian did, trying to grow before you're ready to grow. Ellie.
Just to build on what Omar said and to add something, I can give you one small example.
Eli, sorry to interrupt. Let's take 30 seconds for people to do that, because sometimes people don't do it because they don't want to miss what's being discussed. So we're going to take a 30-second break. And this has been a great conversation. Earlier, we discussed anecdotal evidence about Tesla stores going to test drives. People had different suggestions, very great creative suggestions about how to improve the test drive experience, how to increase FSD take rates. I highly recommend, if you just joined, going back and listen to it. You can do that on YouTube, even during the live stream. You can rewind, pause, replay at different speeds, or you can do it on X later on as well during the recording. Omar.
Yeah, just on the conversation of BYD, obviously, divide that revenue figure by the number of cars, and it's a lot less impressive. But as we talk about just previously in the conversation, these new, more affordable models, I mean, take a look at where Tesla is on the Chinese sales charts compared to BYD right now. And BYD is ahead, obviously, in their home market by quite a bit. But I think this affordable model is really a BYD killer. Nobody buys the BYD vehicle because it's better than a Tesla. They buy it because it's cheaper, it's available. Tesla moving down market, I think, is significant. I think they have a shot at being number one in the Chinese market in the coming years with this new, more affordable model in the Cybercab.
Thank you. Ellie.
Yes, I just want to say, to add one small example. In my country, for example, yesterday we had a quarterly meeting in the company, and we compared the numbers between us and some other brands, and BYD was number one. But by the end of the day, it was number one because they sell to fleet managers. They sell by quantity, by volume, B2B, what Tesla doesn't have at the moment in this country, for example. So by the end of the day, Tesla sell more cars to individuals, way more than what BYD sell to fleet and individuals, basically, because they sell to fleet. So I think that's important to realize that.
Thank you, Ellie. Neil, did you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. Yeah, just wanted to ask quickly. In regards to autonomy, Tesla's full in. If BYD isn't full in, they lose, right? So my question for this group is BYD full in or not? Are they just trying to sell cheap electric cars?
I don't think they're playing autonomy game at all, actually. I don't think they have any sort of initiative. I mean, 2 years ago, their CEO said full self-driving is a pipe dream, indicating that they're not even working on it. And then recently, I think they made an announcement about using LiDAR or something, but that sounded more like a trying to ride the wave of the 1010 event kind of announcement more than anything else. Neil?
Yeah, so ultimately, if that's the case, their product gets driven down to the value of its components, right? Like Elon has said in manufacturing, if you're just going to make an EV, yeah, you're done.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And when people are kind of comparing these sales and prices and margins, they should also note that Tesla puts a very valuable computer in every Tesla that's going to be driving the vehicle later on after software update autonomously. Other automakers don't do that. That's like a $500 to $1,000 difference. That's a couple percent of gross margin right there. Uzi.
Yeah, I wanted to shout you out. I think you said it was last week that the sub 30K vehicle will be made for China, and it seems like that will be made in Shanghai. So, good job, Tesla Nostradamus.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, it's starting in China. Thank you, Z. But, great discussions from speakers every single episode. The quality of discussions in Tesla Live is improving really rapidly. It's amazing. I love it. Steph Hart in a reply asks, Omar, this question is for you. What kind of changes does Tesla generally need to see for them to release an entirely new software branch? I think it's referring to a major update, for example, V12 to V13.
Yeah, so first, just quickly on the China part, there's some vehicles in China that forget about having an FSD computer. They don't have a screen. They don't have an airbag. Okay. They don't have motorized seats. So there's just some level where Tesla just simply doesn't want to go. For example, every Tesla has internet connectivity. It has cameras, it has ADAS, that type of thing. So there's always going to be, I think, a market to go below Tesla to kind of strip the car down even more. I mean, some of these cars really resemble bikes more than anything we would think of as a car in the Western world. And Tesla is not trying to do that with their more affordable model. They're not trying to just strip things out. They're trying to actually boil down the experience and lower the cost of that experience. Um, so I think that just makes their better experience more compelling versus going for one of these things that, for example, they don't even have fast charging, right? We think of that as like, well, of course it has fast charging. No, not every EV has fast charging. You're stuck waiting hours to charge, and there's no fast charger you can go to. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really powerful to bring to that segment a really great EV and an experience that has FSD. It's way different than what's in that price segment today in the Chinese market. Now, in terms of how do they figure out when to release it? So they obviously have new features or new functionality they want to add. For example, they'll say, okay, we've noticed there's an issue with some stop signs at night that have lights around them. Okay, we want to fix that issue. So they'll create a new
No,
model, train it.
the major update, slightly different question. How do they, instead of doing V12.7, how do they decide V13?
Well, you can really call these updates anything you want. So it's really just a convention. It's kind of like semantic versioning. The first number means a really big change. So it just means we feel that this is a really big change. So for 10 to 11, it was the unification of the highway and the city street stack. FSD started handling highway for the first time. Then with version 12, it was going end to end on city streets, end to end control. Then, for V13, we don't really know what is it that makes it a V13 and not a V12.7, right? So it's kind of like you're just making it up, right? You're just deciding what you want to call the version. For them to call it 13, they have to feel that it's something significant. I mean, no one's going to stop them from, instead of 12.5, 12.6, saying version 13, version 15, version 16. But it's something they get to decide, and it gives us a little peek into what they're thinking. They're thinking this is a much more major update than any of the point releases we've seen, but why, we don't quite know yet, and we'll have to find out soon if they're really going to release it. It was kind of weird on the earnings call. They said, and Ashok's now going to give some comments about V13, and I was like losing it, like, yes, I'm so excited for these comments, and somehow these comments never came, so I'm still a little bit in the dark.
Great. Any other questions, comments on the topic FSD? Please let me know. Omar, I'm going to follow up with a couple of questions from yesterday's space. There was one great question: grid demands from robotaxis. Grid demands from robotaxis. How will the grid handle increased demand from Tesla's planned robotaxi rollout? Is Tesla prepared for this increase? First of all, do you expect any sort of a material increase from robotaxi rollout in the near term that the grid wouldn't be able to? And then secondly, is it kind of just power walls and megapacks to save the day?
Well, we're seeing a rapid rise in demand for electricity use from data centers, from electric cars, from everything. Maybe autonomy would accelerate that a little bit, but we have the tools to produce more energy. We have produced more and more energy over time. Elon talking about Kardashev scales on the call. the measure of progress of civilization is how much energy we can harness. So, I mean, you look at, for example, the new supercharger in Lost Hills, the grid said, hey, we can only give you 1.5 megawatts. It's going to take us time to get interconnection for more power than that. They said, all right, screw it. We're just going to buy the land behind there and put a bunch of solar panels and just generate the power ourselves, put it in some megapacks. And they've got 11 megawatts of power there with only 1.5 coming from the grid. So if things are really, really bottlenecked, you can ultimately just sort of build it yourself. But these sorts of things don't happen instantaneously. They both can scale at the same time. And we definitely have the tool to scale building out more power. So it's not just going to happen by itself, but there's a lot of effort already underway to expand the power grid, to modernize it, and it's manageable ultimately.
Great. We have 2 hands right now. We're going to go to those, and then we're going to talk about Waymo's recent announcement, updated numbers. Uzi, and then Neil.
Yeah, this might be low-hanging fruit, but I haven't heard any update on FSD in China since the Baidu partnership. Is there anything material? Because we're saying, Tesla is just as valuable as autonomy. So, and we're comparing it to Baidu, who's only manufacturing parts. So I'd like to know if there's anything valuable.
Yeah, I think they did start some testing of FSD supervised with employees. They have authorization for a small area around their Shanghai factory to test. And they've said in their roadmap that they expect to have FSD supervised launched in China in Q1, pending regulatory approval, being the big asterisk there.
Okay, good. Any more questions, comments? Please request to speak. Leave it in live chat. Leave in a reply. Let's see if there's a few more. I have a couple more after that, after Neil for Omar, and then we're gonna call it a day. It's been going on for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're gonna cut it off in about 10-15 minutes unless likes surge. Right now we're about 250. If we go above 400, we'll keep the space going for 3rd hour. Neil?
Yeah, so guys, I'd like to say I live in central Pennsylvania, and what's about to light up the local TMI nuclear reactors isn't EVs, it's AI. It's Microsoft's desire to offset their coal burning data centers near DC, because unfortunately near DC the energy is not clean. So what they're trying to do is light up TMI and have it offset the dirty energy that they burn down there. So yeah, you know what lights up the reactor?
Yeah.
Not EVs, AI.
Got it.
Hey, that's an interesting point Neil brings up. What's going to take more energy, powering the robotaxis or powering the data centers to train the models that drive them?
All right, great. Let's see. Neil?
Yeah, I just want to say, Omar, that's a really valid point. And to the extent that we get really efficient software, it takes less power. Like bad software takes a lot of power. Good software takes less.
Let's talk about, thank you. Let's talk about Waymo. Omar, Waymo released some new numbers. Number of trips, paid trips, number of miles. They're scaling, they're continuing to scale, they're increasing their service. Waymo is currently providing an average of over 21,400 paid Robotaxi trips per day. The entire Robotaxi fleet is now driving nearly 143,000 fully autonomous miles per day. And given their most recent announcement of how many Robotaxis they have, about 700 on the fleet, I estimated an average Waymo does about 30 paid trips and goes about 200 fully autonomous miles per day. Omar, any comments on these updated numbers?
Yeah, they're incredible numbers, honestly. I mean, just yesterday they announced 100,000 trips a week. Now they're at 150,000 trips a week. It turns out that there is very high demand for driverless rides. And you hear people talking about, man, it's great to be in the car without a driver. And the other day I was in your space and I was with an Uber driver, and the Uber driver started talking to me. He goes, I'm actually a tech investor. He starts talking to me about EVs. I'm like, oh man, I'm trying to listen to the space here. And there's just benefits to not having a driver. People are seeing it. Uber's expanding. They've raised $5.5 billion. That's their biggest fundraising round ever. And I just got a notification today. I've been taken off the wait list in Austin. So I now have access in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Phoenix, and Austin, 4 cities. They're going to be expanding to more cities, partnering with Uber. It's impressive growth stats that we're seeing here. More than 7 million driverless rides a year now happening in the United States and growing fast.
All right. Thank you, Omar. I'm trying to monitor YouTube live chat. Let's see for questions. Drew Soul says, can we get Yaman to 3,000 subs? Don't people realize that this is mandatory and those who don't subscribe will be forced to listen to machine? Omar, Apple introduced more products. Mini for $599. This seems to be catching some headlines. People are surprised that the price did not go up another $100. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, these are really incremental products. They're great products. I did pick up one of the Mac Minis myself to upgrade my Mac Mini. It's got some good improvements, and they have a good trade-in program where you can trade in your old Mac and get a new one. I got $260 off. But really, there's nothing that revolutionary here. They are also, I think, being a little misleading in their marketing. They're highlighting Apple Intelligence as the headline feature of these new devices, when the reality is you don't need the latest devices to run the Apple Intelligence features, which aren't really all that great to begin with. So it's a little bit of a confusing marketing message, but what I do like is the strategy they've taken where they've announced a new product every day. So it becomes not just a one-day news event, but actually, something they stretch out into the whole week. So they're really good at marketing, but ultimately they're incremental improvements to their existing products, updating them with the latest chip.
Great. I mean, I think their ecosystem is extremely powerful. I recently tested different mic setups and different, headphone setups. And one thing that's kind of a key is that AirPods work best when you're switching from the laptop to the phone, back to the laptop, very seamless, as opposed to, they try, I think the other hardware try to emulate that somehow, but it just isn't the same. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, my
Very interesting.
entire life runs on Apple for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And when I just switched my MacBook Air to MacBook Pro, thank you, pay more. The setup was super easy. You can just put in your iCloud account and password, and you have all your messages, photos, mail, everything transfer instantly. I mean, I remember how this used to be a few years ago. Machine is back. Yoda is back. We're gonna have more conversations, it looks like. But before that, I would love for people to go to YouTube, hit that like button. Right now, we are at 260. Let's see if we can get to 300 before Machine says a word. We're going to wait on mute until we get to 300. Come on, guys. Let's get this done. The impact of likes on YouTube channel is it's kind of like a one-to-one, a direct impact. So it really helps us out. It takes 2 seconds. It's free. It's the highest return on investment. Our listeners can contribute. There are a lot of people on Patreon, our sponsors, our dedicated speakers. We're all trying, and the listeners need to show up too. Thousands of people listen to Tesla Live every day, sometimes more than 10,000 combined on X and YouTube. 10% of you can go to YouTube, hit that like button, help us grow faster. All the frustration that we voiced in the first hour about people not knowing how much safer FSD is, how much better Tesla cars are. one solution. If Tesla's live grows, you share with your family, friends, colleagues, haters, they'll get the facts. So hit that like button, help us grow at the top of your screens through the link at the top of your screens. Omar?
Yeah, Apple really is, I think, one of the greatest businesses in the world, and the business that I really want Tesla to emulate in many ways. They just, you just buy these products, they're going to be great. The experience is unparalleled. The fact that, every time I swipe my credit card to buy anything, Apple gets a cut of that. It really is just a beautiful business, a business that's been built so well that frankly, it doesn't even really matter if they innovate all that much. They are going to continue to make billions and billions of dollars in profit, rivaling only companies like Saudi Aramco. So I hope that Tesla can continue to develop and sort of look at Apple, with the App Store, they built an economy, right? They didn't just build a product, they built an economy. And I think that's really what Tesla's trying to do with Optimus and FSD as well.
Thank you, Yoda.
Yeah, I was wondering if Omar, you can comment on with next year first half the 30,000 vehicle, Tesla is likely going to drop that product like how Apple's dropping their products this week with very little notice. Um, how that could be the first product where Tesla takes that approach, first major product anyway. Can you comment on how you see that first launch week approach and what that might look like, and how early do you think Tesla would need to actually announce the product?
Well, I have no clue. Okay. I have no clue. What we're seeing with this product is like nothing we have ever seen from Tesla before. Tesla used to have to announce the car years early and like take pre-orders just to prove to people that they had interest in the car, right? We're in a very different world today where Tesla has $33 billion of cash. And this next product launch is going to be like nothing we've ever seen from Tesla before. So I'm completely in the dark. Nobody knows what to expect here. People are kind of in disbelief. And Tesla has been cracking down on leaks for months, if not years at this point, in ways that are crazy, right? So, for example, you leak something, you get kicked out of the event, right? You might get, you know, um, I had, for example, someone sent me an image of the latest FSD update. I didn't even realize they were a Tesla employee. I, I mean, I knew they were a Tesla employee, but I didn't really think about it at the time. I posted the picture. He gets a message right away. Hi, you shared a message with Holmar's blog. We have the VIN of your car hidden in the image somewhere where like it couldn't be seen. And you've been removed from the Wave 1 program. It's like, wow. And I'm like, I have the software on my car, right? Like, what does it really matter? But that is the level of like effort they're putting into preventing leaks. And the cybercab, did we see any images of the cybercab? Did we know the robovan was going to come? No. They've gone next level on secrecy. So what's coming? I don't know. Even for people who've been around in the Tesla community, they can say, well, Tesla usually does this. But Tesla usually does this doesn't seem to be applying to whatever it is that's coming next year.
Thank you. Neil?
Yeah, just like to say, I'm with Omar, I get it. But ultimately, I think about Apple and it's like the innovation is gone, right? And if the innovation is gone, what's the incremental value, right? Like that's the danger that Apple faces, right? That they can't actually make anything better. Then what, right? It's just this path to declining revenue. Yeah, that's my thought.
All right. Yesterday we talked about Apple quite a bit too. Man, I want to give a shout out to Nick L. Nick L financed with the super chat yesterday's extension and today's extension as well on Tesla Live beyond the 2-hour limits. And he's also in live chat telling people to how much he needs to super chat for a machine to not talk. And then he says, yeah, he just gives out advice for people to help Tesla Live. This is great. All right. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we're going to end the space. We've been going on for 2.5 hours today. Earlier, we had a great discussion about Tesla stores and test drive experience. We had a number of people came up and shared their experience. I recommend listen to that section. You can go listen to it on YouTube or on X. I'm kind of in between about deleting these recordings on X, but it will really help out if you can go like and subscribe so that I don't have to take that step. I hate making the product worse for people who are big sporters. I mean, a couple of people reached out to me and said, you know what, I can't listen to it on YouTube during my drive back. Like, can you please do the X space recordings, publish those again? And I don't want to make the product worse for people. So just go like and subscribe so we don't have to get there. Once we get to 10,000 subscribers, we don't have to play this game. I'm going to start publishing videos of spaces on X as well. Once we get there, we have to get to 10,000. It's very important we get to a milestone because the visibility of the channel is very low right now. Even as a search, it doesn't come up. So once we get to that, hustle to that milestone, we can take other steps. Mr. J, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I had a question regarding FSD because I felt I kind of lost track between all the versions. So what is the best way to keep track of the absolute latest version? And to which like model or hardware does it come to first? Is it to the Cybertruck or is it to hardware 4? So because I feel that there are different paths now between the FSD versions. So we have the hardware 3, Cybertruck seems to be separate, and
okay.
Hardware 4.
All right. I mean, essentially what you're asking is how do you make sure you get the latest version of FSD?
Yeah.
Okay, Omar?
Sorry, what was the question?
How does an average Tesla owner, what can they do to get the latest version of FSD sooner? I mean, people are yearning for these updates and developments and improvements. They want to be everybody wants to be in the early release group.
Well, there's nothing you can really do. You can go in your software tag and make sure your setting is advanced. Some people say if you sacrifice a goat in the name of Ashok and vote for Donald Trump, it may help bump you up the list, but those are just rumors.
Yeah, and then the other rumor is if you hit like on Tesla Live, Ashok is going to make sure that he comes to your car first.
Yeah, I heard that rumor too.
Yeah, exactly. But these are rumors. We can neither confirm nor deny. I hope that Ashok one day comes to the space and says, confirms or denies. Until then, it's a rumor. Neil?
In the end, pace of innovation is what matters in the long run. That's the quote.
Wow. It's very insightful. Actually, one of our sponsors said one person should share their favorite Elon quote of the day. So Neil, thank you very much for sharing your quote of the day. Yeah, I appreciate it. In the end, pace of improvement is what matters. Great. With that, I think we're out of things to talk about today. And we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific time for Tesla Live. So tomorrow's Thursday, Halloween. Omar, what's the Halloween costume this year?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. Neil, are you going to a Halloween party?
You know, this first year I'm not. My kids are alone. I think I'm going to be a Ghostbuster. My neighbor's going to be a Ghostbuster. I think I'm going to do the same thing.
Nice. Uzi, are you going?
Peaky Blinders.
All right. HustleTown?
I'm always the Sith Lord.
Okay. Ellie, what do you got?
No, we don't celebrate that.
You don't celebrate Halloween? What? I don't know.
No.
Come on, it's one of my favorite traditions. Jimmy,
I'm going as a Cybertruck.
you're going as a Cybertruck. How are you going to do that?
Cardboard boxes and a lot of straight angles.
You know what I was thinking this morning? Maybe we should have a Halloween party for Tesla Live, but it's probably too late to organize that. But in the
You
future,
know,
we can. In the future, we can have these parties on YouTube.
my kid actually asked to be a Cybertruck because our neighbor has one, and he goes, "Dad, could I be one of those?" And I was like, "Yeah, we could probably actually whip that up with some spray paint and some cardboard boxes."
Man, I'm telling you. I mean, Omar, what do you make of the fact that when you call it as a store, they talk to you about if you want a Cybertruck, you gotta wait until it comes to the area, and you go to the website, basically saying like, don't call us, we don't have any more information for you.
Do they say that? I haven't called
Yeah.
them recently.
Yeah, something along those lines. For the first minute, they're kind of talking about Cybertruck, and then the other thing that surprised me is I honestly must have kind of got lost in the noise. They were doing Cybertruck test drives at the store, and you have to schedule them ahead because obviously they're in high demand. But the Cybertruck that they had was kind of out. We couldn't do that test drive. We couldn't take Cybertruck for a test drive.
Well, that's good. They're doing Cybertruck test drives at least.
Did you know that?
Yeah, they announced it a little while ago.
Yeah, must have
been like a month or two ago.
Yeah. So I'm gonna schedule it. I'll try that too. All right. Well, good chatting with you all, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. If Nick can come up and do the closing pitch, if he's available, if he's not holding the baby.